The Lord gave me a view, January 26, 1850, which I will relate. I saw that some of the people of God are stupid and dormant, and but half awake. They do not realize the time we are now living in, and that the man with the dirt brush has entered, and that some are in danger of being swept away. I begged of Jesus to save them, to spare them a little longer, and let them see their awful danger, that they might get ready before it should be forever too late. The angel said, "Destruction is coming like a mighty whirlwind." I begged of the angel to pity and to save those who loved this world, who were attached to their possessions and were not willing to cut loose from them and sacrifice to speed the messengers on their way to feed the hungry sheep who are perishing for want of spiritual food. So when we're talking about the man with the dirt brush, where does this come from? This actually comes from a dream that William Miller had. And this was not just any dream. This was a prophetic dream. And Ellen White references it because of the importance and the weight that it actually held. It's a very amazing dream, and we're going to try in a short time to go through it. You could take an hour or 2 hours to dissect this dream. It is so amazing. This is from early writings, and you see the importance because in one of Ellen White's first writings, she accounts the dream. So she's showing how important this dream was to her, and then referencing it as Jesus being the man with the dirt brush. So let's read. I dreamed, this is William Miller talking, that God, by an unseen hand, sent me a curiously wrought casket about 10 inches long by 6 square. So we have William Miller, and he's given this casket from God. And this casket is 10 by 6 by 6. Now, if you multiply 10 by 6 by 6, you come to 360. So this is the prophetic principle of day for a year. They understood finally, after 1798, when the prophecies were opened, that what was locking the prophecies of the Bible were this 360-day interpretation. And this casket, we're going to see that this casket represents the Bible. And this casket was made of ebony and pearls curiously inlaid. To the casket there was a key attached. And we're going to see that this key is the rules. Because when you apply the rules to the Bible, it unlocks everything to our understanding. I immediately took the key and opened the casket. When to my wonder and surprise, I found it filled with all sorts and sizes of jewels, diamonds, precious stones, and gold and silver coin of every dimension and value, beautifully arranged in their several places in the casket. And thus arranged, they reflected a light and glory equaled only by the sun. I thought it was not my duty to enjoy this wonderful sight alone, although my heart was overjoyed at the brilliance, beauty, and value of its contents. I therefore placed it on a center table in my room, and gave out word that all who had a desire might come and see the most glorious and brilliant sight ever seen by man in this life. The people began to come in, and at first few in number, but increased to a crowd. When they first looked into the casket, they would wonder and shout for joy. But when the spectators increased, everyone would begin to trouble the jewels, taking them out of the casket and scattering them on the table. I began to think that the owner would require the casket and the jewels again at my hand. And if I suffered them to be scattered, I could never place them in their places in the casket again as before. I felt I should never be able to meet the accountability, for it would be immense. I then began to plead with the people not to handle them, nor to take them out of the casket, But the more I pleaded, the more they scattered. And now they seemed to scatter them all over the room, on the floor and on every piece of furniture in the room. Then I saw that among the genuine jewels and coin, they had scattered an innumerable quantity of spurious jewels and counterfeit coin. I was highly incensed at their base conduct and ingratitude, and reproved and reproached them for it. But the more I reproved, the more they scattered the spurious jewels and false coin among the genuine. Then I became vexed in my physical soul and began to use physical force to push them out of the room. But while I was pushing out one, 3 more would enter and bring in dirt and shavings and sand and all manner of rubbish, until they covered every one of the jewels, diamonds, and coin, which they all excluded from sight. They also tore in pieces my casket and scattered it among the rubbish. I thought no man regarded my sorrow or my anger. I became wholly discouraged and disheartened and sat down and wept. So he had this dream of this casket, a beautiful casket, and the people came in and they tore it in pieces. And they scattered all the jewels around, and he could do nothing about it. While I was thus weeping and mourning for my great loss and accountability, I remembered God and earnestly prayed that he would send me help. Immediately, the door opened, and a man entered the room when the people all left it, and he having a dirt brush. So here's the man with the dirt brush. In his hand, opened the windows and began to brush the dirt and rubbish from the room. I cried to him to forbear, for there were some precious jewels scattered among the rubbish. He told me, "Fear not, for he would take care of them." Then, while he brushed the dirt and rubbish, false jewels and counterfeit coin all rose and went out of the window like a cloud, and the wind carried them away. In the bustle, I closed my eyes for a moment. When I opened them, the rubbish was all gone. The precious jewels, the diamonds, the gold, the silver coin lay scattered in profusion all over the room. He then placed on the table a casket, much larger and more beautiful than the former, and gathered up the jewels, the diamonds, the coins by the handful, and cast them into the casket till not one was left, although some of the diamonds were not bigger than the point of a pin. So is even the tiniest jewels important? Absolutely. We can't miss one of these principles. And it's interesting. So he had the original casket. And this dream happened early on. And then the casket was torn apart. And then the man with the dirt brush came. And he told him to fear not. Well, we know who that is. And he placed on the table a casket even larger. How would the casket get bigger? So we had the Bible. And then how did the Bible get bigger? The spirit of prophecy was added. So Miller, first when he was studying, he understood the day for a year. And he had the key to unlock the prophecies. And then when he opened up the casket, he's seen all the amazing jewels inside. And then God had to make that casket larger, because sometimes it's hard for us to see the jewels inside. He then called upon me to come and see. I looked into the casket, but my eyes were dazzled with the sight. They shone with 10 times their former glory. I thought they had been scored in the sand by the feet of those wicked persons who had scattered them and trod them in the dust. They are arranged in beautiful order in the casket, every one in its place, without any visible pains of the man who cast them in. I shouted with very joy, and that shout awoke me. Are we supposed to, as God's people, give a shout at the end? Because of what? because of all the jewels that we find in this book, we're supposed to give a loud cry. And that loud cry is supposed to what? Wake up those dry bones. We need to be woken up because we see the beauty of the prophecies and that they're fulfilling right in front of us.